Based on Dr. Boylan's remarks in his presentation that he suggests the 8th Amendment is unworkable in 2017, could I ask, would you agree with him on that? And could I ask Dr. Boylan to, outside of your paper, to elaborate a bit more on that, please? That's the first question, Carol.
So the question is whether it's workable in 2017.
Yeah.
Well, we have given so many explanations as to how the system is working. As you know, the 8th Amendment is there, and we are all happy, superficially very happy, everything is working. But underneath, it is not working. If it is working, why should 4,800 women travel to another country to procure the abortion? So in my view, the things have to change. So I don't think the 8th Amendment as it stands is good for the women in Ireland.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Boylan?
I guess the wider interpretation of the question is society different in 2017 to 1983? And so the position where we are now with human rights and autonomy of the woman and her considered right to self-determination is more apparent now than it was in 1983, I believe. I was not of age in 1983. So the societal change has happened in many different sexual, reproductive and health issues over the last century, and society has struggled with each development in these areas. They are very emotive, and our value systems come into play in this area. So in terms of the context, it's not possible to prevent women from accessing safe abortion services in other jurisdictions. And is it acceptable in our society at this time to know that we are not looking after our women and girls in this country at this time?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I obviously feel it's not working, and I think it has resulted over the years in Savita, Halappanvar, Meabh, and the whole alphabet soup that we have of women going to the European Court of Human Rights and the UN and so on. So, and it also is not working because, as I said, the genie is out of the bottle with the abortion pill, which is freely available and can be accessed by the post office in this country. So there's a lot of anomalies, and I think time has moved on, and it's no longer fit for purpose in 2017. So that's a short answer.
And second question, Carol, please. Thank you. Just Dr. Boylan, in the closing paragraph of your presentation to us, you speak about initial restrictive termination law has evolved into more liberal practice in other jurisdictions. Could I ask all of you again, in the context of that as the backdrop, and given that there's a commentary that perhaps the floodgates, in inverted commas, could open, could I ask you what would your view on that be in your experience as medical professionals vis-a-vis other jurisdictions?
I'm sorry if I did misunderstand your questions, but the experience in France, in Italy, in Turkey are once the terminations are legalized, the abortion rates comes down. The only reason for that is actually it is combined, as Peter mentioned, with good post-abortion contraception. So it is a very clear distinction that it comes down without any difficulty. And the second thing is actually they also procure more, because of the medical termination becoming available, things are getting safer and safer and safer. So if you look at the WHO document, the chance of the mother dying in the first trimester termination is 0.1 per 100,000. It's very minimal. But as the gestation increases, the complications and so on goes up. And the illegal abortion comes in when the woman is trying here, trying there, can't, and then she goes to a later gestation and runs into difficulties. So the answer is yes, the legalization process brings the termination rates down because of that's the experience in a number of countries, not one, but number of countries, including South Africa.
The other reason liberal practice evolves over time is the difficulties with definitions, and already it's been raised here today. How do you define a serious risk to mental health, as was the one in the UK, in which this member of the Institute has commented on. So the law will be tested when it is in use. So despite the best efforts to legislate with appropriate language, allowing some freedom within regulation would be advisable.
Yes, I agree with Arula that the rate of termination, all the evidence is that it comes down once more liberalised legislation is introduced, for all of the obvious reasons. You made reference to the floodgates opening. There was a lot of concern expressed by some people about, with the Protection of Life and Pregnancy Act, that when suicide was included, that women would abuse this. But that has not happened. So I don't think that women will abuse any legislation. As I've made reference, termination is a very distressing thing to have to go through. And I should also say that women who have terminations for babies with serious abnormalities grieve for those babies. They name them. They really feel deeply about it. And they are very angry at having to travel abroad. And as I said, I don't think you should underestimate that anger. It's out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Justifiably.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to I mean, I do think I heard that Dr. Boylan, who's been before the committee that I chaired before, is, I think, one of the most refreshing witnesses that I've met in here. Could I just finally ask the question in the context of, if we do nothing, if we as a committee recommend no change, or if the Irish people recommend no change? That's the backdrop to my question now. And I'm putting you on the spot as well, but now. What would your best advice be to us as legislators today, doing this report, given your medical and professional backgrounds?
Groundhog Day. We'll be back. You've got to do something now.
And to the Irish people, if you were to speak to them directly today?
You've got to do something now. I think the Eighth Amendment is no longer fit for purpose. It has caused enormous problems. It has caused huge distress to women, and it needs to be repealed. And then you need to legislate. And how you legislate, I hope you'll be guided by what we said here today and by the findings of the Citizens' Assembly.
Professor Alfaro.
Just to say, the questions put were, would you do termination for this, that, and the other? If the question, as in my statement says, would you put this woman to prison for doing this, that, and the other? The answer is going to be totally different, whether it is the legislature or the people who are concerned. So I think, in my view, I think you have to do the question in the other way around. Can you imagine putting 4,800 women behind bars in Ireland every year? I can produce the list if you like.
Yeah, thank you.
Approach I would hope to see is deliberate democracy going forward. I think the principles that have been reported in the Citizens' Assembly and the facilitation, if they could be replicated in more open debate of deliberate democracy, then perhaps some of voices that have been silent before will participate at this time.
Senator,